Welcome to the Hartman Show. I'm delighted to have Lori Demerit, the Chief Executive Officer of the Hartman Group, with us this morning. Lori, welcome.
Thank you.
Lori, something that you and I have worked on for years is this whole idea of green marketing, of consumers or people that are interested in buying products for more than just the product itself, but what the halo effect is of the product. And I think the term that people use now is sustainability. What is the term, or what's happening out there from the folks' standpoint?
Sure, well, sustainability is really multidimensional, and I think how people are defining it is really reflective of what they value most, and it's different for everyone, so it has just a very malleable meaning. So for me, it might mean feeding healthy, sustainable products to my kids, foods. It might mean for someone else taking care of their community, and it might mean for someone else recycling. And that's what's so wonderful about it, is it has so many meanings, and there's just a constellation of values wrapped around that word sustainability.
Are there certain attributes or certain things that are more interested to the folks rather than other things, like is green more important today, or is other social factors more important?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually what we're finding is that sustainability really doesn't mean just green to most of us. In fact, that's much further out for many of us. What we call the gateway into sustainability is usually a personal benefit, and that might be a health benefit or a benefit in terms of cost savings. For example, buying an energy efficient appliance might save you money in the long term. So those almost selfish things are the ones that really drive people into sustainability, whereas green and environment is much further out. And that's because it's very complicated. It's hard for consumers to resonate with it, and it's really, frankly, sort of depressing. I mean, who wants to think about icebergs melting and polar bears dying? It doesn't reflect my day-to-day values, which is keeping my family healthy and keeping my community strong.
Great. What's interesting, it's a messy place out there. If you're going out and shopping, and you're shopping for food, and you're in the grocery store, you're busy. In many cases, what we've heard from the folks is basically, how do I know what these companies are talking about is true? Or moreover, how do I know that some of these products that I would like to participate in have those halo effects that are part of what my personal value are? How do I determine that when I'm shopping?
Yeah, it's very confusing and complicated. Now, the wonderful thing is there's a variety of certification programs out there, and there's websites that are dedicated just to telling you about the certification programs. So you can actually look up the things that are most valued to you, determine how those are certified, and then look for those logos when you're in store. Many retailers now are also getting on board and helping consumers understand what products have different values and special values. Ultimately, we find that doing some due diligence on your own is the best way to go about this, because you want to make sure those products are right for you and your family. But we truly believe that most companies out there that are talking about sustainable values and attributes are doing the right thing. And in fact, there's many companies that aren't even telling you all the great things they're doing. So we believe in transparency both on the part of the consumer and on the part of the company itself.
Are there some examples of companies that you're aware of that we would consider are doing the right thing, and consumers are buying more of their products because of these kinds of attributes?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at a lot of the smaller brands that are in the natural products marketplace, many of them were founded based on very sustainable values, either taking care of the community, not harming animals in their production. So if you go into many of the natural food stores or channels, you'll find that a lot of the products, like the Annie's and Amy's of the world, have wonderful stories behind them. But I would say some of the big companies now are making a lot of headway in sustainability as well. And frankly, in many cases, they're the ones that can affect the most change because of their scale and their size.
And in certain cases, it's not just the product, but maybe the retailer who's actually enhancing the sustainability, so to speak, of the product or the offering as well. I know we hear Whole Foods as a brand that people really resonate to, that feels part of their value. Are there other brands besides Whole Food that are retailers that are doing it and contributing it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, if we look at the very probably polar end of that spectrum is Walmart. Walmart has some very bold sustainability goals that they talk about publicly, very long-term goals in terms of having zero waste, for example, offsetting all of the carbon emissions. So what's fascinating is even for a scale and size of a Walmart-type store, they have very boldly stated sustainability goals that they're pursuing, and importantly, measuring. So you can go on their website and see how they're doing as they meet or achieve those goals, hopefully in the next few decades, probably, let's be realistic.
Yeah. One of the things that you and I talked about and studied over the many years that we've worked at the Hartman Group is the fact that in many cases, in the green market as an example, some of this has been inhibited by a real high price. Is the price coming down, or are some of these products too high priced because of the sustainability, or are they becoming more competitively priced?
Price is definitely still an issue, and there's a perception that all sustainable products cost more, but that's not always the case. Right now there's a huge diversity in terms of the products, in terms of the ones that are much more expensive to be sustainable and others that really are comparable in price. If you think about paper products, for example, the recycled paper products are really, frankly, the same price as the conventional ones. But in other cases, it's still pretty expensive because of production technique. And what we find is that in things like food, for example, price is still a barrier, but not always. So if it's a product that people are buying for their kids, if I'm buying it for people coming over for dinner, I'm probably willing to pay a bit more, but I might not be willing to pay a bit more 2 nights later. So it's really interesting when it comes down to that price perception. When are people willing to pay more and when are they not?
So value can be described or be determined by a particular occasion or by a particular who you're buying it for. So value can be a higher price or last long just as much as a lower price.
Absolutely. And so in my case, when I go shopping and I'm buying strawberries for my kids, I'm willing to pay $2 more to buy the organic strawberries. That to me is good value, and I feel like I'm being a good mom. I buy my husband something, I usually am not willing to pay for it.
Poor Paul.
Not that I don't value him, but I'm not willing to pay the same.
Well, this has been going on for now over a decade, I guess. You and I have been studying this.
Yeah.
Where do you think it's going in the future? Is this going to resonate more? Are consumers and folks getting more involved in trying to buy things that are not just good for them, but also good for the planet, or is that too broad of a scope?
I think that's a great way to think about it. And what we'd say is, yes, people are buying more and they're moving beyond just the personal benefits, but the really hot air right now are what we call social benefits. So it's not actually saving the world. It's more about taking good care of your fellow humans and maybe the animals as well. So when we start hearing about companies that are telling stories around the communities they support, how they empower their workers, treat their workers fairly, those are the things that are really resonating with many of us right now. So we'd say that's sort of the next place we're going to see a lot of products and brands talking about what they're doing.
Great. Lori, thanks for joining us today. We've enjoyed the talk about sustainability and green market, and not only where it is today, but perhaps where it's going in the future. It's an important issue for the folks. We appreciate your perspective.